Okay, imagine this. You're standing in this huge echoing space. The air's kind of thick with anticipation, the smell of duty-free perfume and coffee. Screens are flickering everywhere, flight numbers, places all over the globe. And announcements chime in, sometimes clear, sometimes muffled, always in English. That moment, do you feel that rush of anxiety, or is it more like a quiet confidence, like, yeah, I can handle this?
Yeah.
We're specifically aiming to turn that airport uncertainty into, well, control. We're diving into the material you've shared with us, pulling out the absolute must-knows for mastering English in that unique environment.
Airports are complex places, aren't they? I mean, even for native speakers, they can be a bit overwhelming. So then you add the layer of, not speaking the language natively. That's where it can get really tricky. Our mission today, looking at this material, is to give you the practical language tools, the sort of insider tips to go from feeling lost to feeling like, okay, I belong here.
All right, this isn't about memorizing a dictionary or anything.
Yeah.
It's more like a shortcut. Yeah. Understanding those specific conversations you'll actually have, the signs you need to read, the announcements you've got to listen for, every step. It's about empowering you, our listener, to navigate that whole airport scene with, well, confidence and ease.
Exactly. And we're going to do that by basically walking through the whole journey from, sitting in your computer before you even leave the house, all the way through check-in, security, finding your gate, boarding, even dealing with problems. We'll focus on the precise words, the phrases that get the job done politely, efficiently. It's about real-world language power.
Yeah, think about that feeling, right? Confidently walking up to a counter, asking exactly what you need, actually understanding the answer, and just moving smoothly through it all, that feeling of being in control of your trip. That's the goal. We want to help you become an airport ace. So let's metaphorically fasten our seatbelts. We're going to unpack everything, from the pre-airport prep to handling those unexpected bumps. Let's get started.
Okay, so let's begin before you even step foot in the terminal, because the journey, it really starts online for most of us now, right? And English is definitely involved right from the get-go.
Exactly right. That first crucial step is often the online check-in. On the airline's website or maybe their app, you'll immediately see keywords. Look for buttons or links like check-in online, manage my booking, or maybe flight details. Understanding those helps you just start the process.
Right, okay. And they'll ask for specific info to find your booking. What terms should you expect there? Usually you'll need your booking reference. Sometimes it's called confirmation number. And of course, your last name. The site will prompt you, ask you to enter these things to get into your reservation.
Okay, and once you're in, here's where it gets really important, I think. Verifying your details. Why is paying attention to the personal details and passport information in English so critical when you're doing it online?
It's vital because, honestly, any small mistake online, it can cause huge delays later at the actual airport. You'll be asked to confirm things like your nationality, your date of birth, and definitely your passport expiry date.
Right.
Double-checking those details against your actual passport is, well, it's a simple English task online that saves a lot of potential headaches.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Now, baggage. Always a hot topic. How does understanding the baggage allowance online stop you getting surprised at the check-in desk?
Knowing your baggage allowance is your defense against unexpected fees. Big time. Online, you'll see terms like carry-on luggage or sometimes hand luggage. That's the small bag you take on the plane with you. And then checked baggage, the bigger bags that go underneath. The website will list weight limits and also size restrictions for both types. Paying attention to those rules online is like key prep.
Gotcha. And your boarding pass or boarding card, that's the golden ticket, right? Once you've checked in online, what essential info should you immediately look for on that pass, whether it's digital or printed?
Right. Once you have that pass on your phone or printed out, instantly find the gate number, then your seat number, also the flight number, and this is important, the boarding time. Not the departure time, the boarding time. That's when you actually need to be at the gate.
Okay, good point. What if you hit a problem online? Like the website's just not cooperating?
Yeah, that happens. Don't panic. Airlines usually have customer service options, like a chat or a phone number. Useful phrases might be, I'm having trouble checking in online, or maybe my booking reference isn't working. Just being able to briefly explain the issue helps them help you quicker.
You mentioned airline emails earlier, and I think that's brilliant. It's an often overlooked part of the pre-airport language prep, isn't it?
Absolutely. Your inbox gets flooded with these emails, right? And it's tempting to just skim them, but they contain really critical updates. Look for phrases like flight delays, gate changes, maybe check-in reminders, or just general info about your booking. Reading those emails in English is kind of a passive way to get ready for the active language you'll need later.
So the real takeaway here is that the airport experience and the English you need for it, it actually starts before you leave home. Mastering this first digital step, understanding the documents, the online words, it's like a secret weapon.
It totally sets you ahead, yeah.
Mm.
You arrive at the airport already familiar with some key terms, key processes, maybe even with your boarding pass already sorted.
Okay, so you've done the online prep, got your documents ready, and now you've arrived at the airport. Stepping out of the car or the train can feel pretty daunting. How do you immediately start finding your way using English?
Well, your first and probably best tool is signage. Signs everywhere. Airports rely heavily on those universal symbols, but they're always combined with clear English labels. Look for the big directional signs. They'll point to departures. That's usually where you head if you're flying out. You'll also see signs for arrivals, obviously, and terminal, followed by a number or letter.
Simple, but yeah, totally effective. And if you arrive by taxi or, a rideshare, the driver will almost definitely ask which terminal. Or maybe something like, are you flying international or domestic? Knowing your terminal number and whether your flight is domestic or international, that's crucial info to have ready.
Definitely. Once you're inside the right terminal building, you'll follow more signs directing you to check-in or maybe ticketing. If you're still not sure where your specific airline's counter is, don't hesitate. Find a staff member. A simple, polite question like, excuse me, where's the airline name check-in? Works perfectly. Or, how do I get to Terminal 3?
The information desk, too. That's always a good fallback for general questions. Look for the big question mark symbol.
Yeah, and beyond check-in, just recognizing signs for things like baggage claim, where you get your bags after landing, restrooms, food, shops, ground transportation. Knowing those helps you navigate the whole airport space, not just the departure part.
Right. And if you're meeting someone who's just landed, you might look for signs for the meeting point.
Exactly. Or ask staff, excuse me, where is the meeting point?
Okay, getting around these huge places. Elevators, escalator.
Yeah, look for signs pointing to escalator or elevator. Sometimes in British English, you'll see lift instead of elevator. And definitely look for signs directing you to internal transport if it's a big airport, like an airport shuttle or a SkyTrain.
So the insight here is really about reading, isn't it? Recognizing specific English words and symbols on signs. Your ability to process that visual info in English gives you independence right away.
Absolutely. It transforms the airport from this confusing maze into a space you can actually navigate.
Yeah.
You have the language tools to read the map, basically, and ask for directions if you get stuck.
Okay, so you've found your way. You're at the right terminal, the right check-in area. This is often your first proper face-to-face conversation with airline staff. Let's unpack this moment, make sure you breeze through it.
Right. When you walk up to the counter, the agent will usually greet you. They might say, hello, how may I help you? Or just simply, next, please.
Key thing is, have your passport and your booking reference number ready, in your hand.
They'll definitely need those documents first. What's the typical phrasing you'll hear? They'll likely ask, passport, please, or maybe, can I see your passport and booking reference?
Yeah.
A simple, polite response as you hand them over is just, here you go.
Okay, easy enough. Now, bags. Probably the most frequent question at this counter, I guess.
Absolutely. The agent will ask about your luggage. Common ways are you checking any bags today? Or maybe just any bags to check. Your response needs to be clear. Yes, just one bag, please. Or perhaps, no, only carry on.
And if you are checking bags, they have to ask those security questions, don't they?
Yes, standard procedure. They will ask, did you pack these bags yourself? And also, are there any prohibited items in your luggage?
It's really crucial to answer truthfully. They're just confirming, what's in your bag and that you haven't accidentally packed, sharp objects, liquids over the limit, flammable stuff.
Okay, now here's where it can get a bit tense. The dreaded overweight bag. What does the agent actually say then? The moment of truth for your packing. Yeah, if your bag is over the limit, the agent will tell you straight. Something like, your bag is overweight, you'll need to pay an excess baggage fee, or maybe you'll need to remove some items. Being prepared for those phrases just helps you understand the situation, that you either have to pay more or quickly repack a bit.
Right. After the bag situation is sorted, they'll often confirm your flight details.
Exactly. They'll usually say something like, so you're flying to destination and your seat number, is that correct? Just listen, confirm it's right, or if there's a mistake, politely point it out. Actually, I thought.
And then the final prize from checking the boarding pass.
Yes, the agent will hand it over saying, here's your boarding pass, or maybe, okay, you're all set. Now, the key insight here is immediately look at that boarding pass. Check the gate number and the boarding time again. If you're even slightly unsure, just point to it and ask, could you confirm the gate number, please? Or is the boarding time definitely time listed? Don't be shy.
Good advice. What if you didn't manage to select a seat online, or you have a preference, like window or aisle?
This counter is your chance to ask, politely of course, is there any chance of getting a window seat? Or could I possibly have an aisle seat, please? Be prepared for them to say no if the flight's full, but it never hurts to ask nicely.
Absolutely. And just finishing the interaction well.
A simple, genuine thank you as you take your documents and leave the counter goes a long way. It keeps things smooth.
So the insight here is really about anticipating that predictable flow of questions, right? And knowing the key phrases to respond clearly and, well, politely. It turns what could be stressful into just a straightforward transaction.
Precisely. You're ready for the conversation, which makes it much less intimidating to understand and participate in.
Okay, next hurdle. The one that makes a lot of travelers, even experienced ones, a little tense. The security checkpoint. Let's break down the language here so you can just move through it confidently.
Right, security. The personnel here use very direct language, often commands, really, because they need people to follow instructions quickly for safety. So listen carefully. They'll say things like, have your boarding pass and ID ready, and critically, remove all liquids and electronics from your bag. Knowing what liquids and electronics mean here is key.
Right. What other things will they typically tell you to take off or remove?
You'll often hear, take off your shoes and belt, please, and empty your pockets. It's basically about getting anything metallic or bulky out of your pockets and into those screening bins.
And talking about the bins or trays, what's the language they use when directing you with those?
They'll point and instruct you where to put your stuff. Put your laptop in a separate bin, or maybe all your items in the trays, please. They want everything spread out so the scanner can see it clearly.
Okay. And when you actually walk through the metal detector or scanner, the instructions are usually simple. Yeah.
Very simple, yeah. Like, step through or walk straight ahead. If the alarm happens to go off, they'll tell you, step back. And likely, please remove item if they think they know what set it off, like keys in a pocket.
What if they need to do a more thorough check?
Yeah.
Like a pat down or checking your bag? What language might they use then?
They might say something like, we need to do a pat down, or we need to check your bag. The best approach is just to remain calm and cooperate fully. If you're genuinely unsure what they want you to do, a simple, clear question like, what should I do, is absolutely fine.
Okay. And they might also ask questions about your luggage again here.
Yes, it's possible. Common questions are, is this your bag? Or, did you pack this bag yourself? Same as check-in, really. Just answer truthfully and briefly.
Right. And then once you're through the scanner, it can feel like a bit of a scramble to collect all your belongings.
Yeah, try to be organized but quick at the end of that conveyor belt. If you realize you've left something behind or you can't find an item that should have come through the scanner, just ask an officer politely, excuse me, I can't find my watch, or whatever it is.
So what's the main takeaway, the key insight for handling security smoothly?
I think it's understanding that the language is very functional, very directive. Expect commands, not necessarily polite requests. Being prepared for that style and knowing the key verbs like remove, take off, put, step helps you process instructions quickly and moving through efficiently. Staying calm, cooperating, and using polite phrases like, excuse me, if you need to ask something, it really does make a difference.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about recognizing the style of communication there as much as the specific words themselves.
Exactly, and being ready just to respond directly to those commands.
Okay, phew.
Yeah.
You've successfully navigated security. Now you're airside in the departures lounge. The next mission, finding your specific gate and, importantly, staying updated on any changes.
Right. Your boarding pass gave you a starting point, remember? The gate number and the boarding time. But, and this is crucial, airports are dynamic places. Gates change, times shift. You must always double-check this information. Look for the large electronic screens. They're usually called departure boards.
Right, those huge screens lifting all the flights. They have a technical name too, don't they?
They do, yeah. Often called FIDS, which stands for Flight Information Display Systems. FIDS. These are your absolute best source for real-time updates. On the FIDS, find your specific flight number and your destination. It will show you the confirmed gate number and, very importantly, the current status.
And what are the key status updates you should be looking out for? What do they mean?
Okay, the most common ones you'll see are on time, which is good news. Delayed, obviously, means it's late. Boarding means it's time to head to your gate right now. Or maybe gate closed, which means you're too late, unfortunately. If your flight says delayed, look closely for an updated estimated departure time. And if it says canceled, well, that's a critical one. You need to go straight to your airline's customer service desk. Don't wait around.
Okay. What if the gate number on the big board is actually different from what's on your boarding pass? Or you just can't find the gate number they're showing?
Just ask a staff member, anyone in uniform, or at an information desk. Point to your boarding pass or the board if needed and ask clearly, "Excuse me, where is gate B23? Or maybe, has gate 15 changed for flight BA245?
Right. And some airports are absolutely enormous, sprawling places.
Yeah.
How do you navigate between different areas or terminals?
Yeah, those signs we talked about earlier become vital again. Follow the directions carefully to the correct concourses or terminals if your gate is in a different section. And don't be afraid to use the internal transport if it's offered, like an airport shuttle or a sky train. If the signs direct you to one, don't try walking for miles if there's a train.
Good point. And here's where paying attention to sounds, not just sights, becomes really crucial, the announcements over the speakers.
Absolutely critical. You must keep an ear out for the announcements over the public address system, the PA system. They often announce gate changes, unexpected delays, or maybe the final boarding calls before the information gets updated on the screens. Listen for your flight number being called out, and key phrases like, "Attention passengers on flight number," or "This is a gate change announcement for."
Okay. And if your flight is delayed and the board doesn't have much detail, can you ask the staff at the actual gate?
Yes, definitely. Once you're at the assigned gate, approach the gate agent's counter politely. Ask something like, "Excuse me, do you know why the flight is delayed?" Or, "What is the estimated departure time now?" They usually have the most current info.
Right. And while you're waiting, maybe for a long time if it's delayed, finding basic amenities is important for comfort. What language helps there?
Well, just looking for the signs again. Signs for restrooms, food and beverage options, shops, maybe charging stations for your phone. Recognizing those terms just helps you make the waiting time a bit more bearable.
So the key insight for this whole gate area experience then is vigilance, being alert.
Exactly that.
Right.
Vigilance. Your ability to actively process information from multiple places. Your boarding pass, the big display boards, and the audible announcements. That's what keeps you on track. It's like a constant loop. Check the board, listen, check your pass, repeat.
Okay, the waiting is finally over. The moment arrives, it's actually time to board your flight.
Right. Listen carefully now for the boarding announcements, specifically at your gate. Airlines usually board people in stages, often by boarding groups, which are on your pass, or maybe by rows of seats. You'll hear the gate agent announce something like, "Now boarding flight number to destination, rows 1 through 10. Or, "Priority boarding is now open. Just wait until your specific group or row number is called. Don't rush the gate before then."
Okay, and once your group is called, what do you need to do?
Have your boarding pass and your ID, usually your passport ready again, in your hand. You'll present them to the agent at the gate desk as you walk towards the jet bridge, that tunnel connecting the gate to the actual plane.
Got it. Stepping onto the plane itself, it can feel a bit cramped and confusing sometimes. How do you find your assigned seat?
Okay, first, look at your boarding pass again for your seat number. It'll be a number and a letter like 23A or 15C. The seat numbers are usually marked clearly above the seats, often on the edge of the overhead bins or sometimes on the seat itself. If you're having trouble spotting it, just ask a flight attendant politely, "Excuse me, where is seat 23A?" Then you need to sort out your carry-on luggage. Smaller bags, like a backpack or handbag, can usually go under the seat in front of you. Larger carry-on bags, like roller bags, need to go in the overhead bin or overhead compartment. Flight attendants will be reminding everyone, please place your larger bags in the overhead compartment.
Right. What happens if those overhead bins near your seat are already completely full? That happens quite a lot these days.
It does, yeah, especially on full flights. If there's no space, the flight attendant might ask you to gate check your bag. This basically means they'll take your larger carry-on bag from you at the door of the plane, they'll put a tag on it, give you the stub, and then they put it in the cargo hold with the checked luggage. You won't get it back until you land, usually at baggage claim, sometimes at a special area near the gate.
Ah, okay, good to know. Now, before takeoff, there are always the safety instructions, either live from the crew or on the video screens. What key terms should you listen for there?
Even if you've heard it a million times, pay attention. Listen for essential instructions like fasten your seatbelt, how to do it, when to keep it fastened, also where the emergency exits are located, and maybe information about life vests under your seat. These are important safety terms to understand.
Okay. What if you need something just before the flight takes off? Like you realize you're cold and want a blanket or need water.
Ask a flight attendant politely, but do it before the cabin doors are closed and they're preparing for takeoff. Excuse me, could I possibly get a blanket, please? Or do you happen to have any headphones? They will also give specific instructions about electronic devices. Listen carefully for phrases like, turn off all electronic devices, or please put your devices in flight mode now. It's really important to follow those instructions immediately.
So the inside for boarding is really about following those sequential instructions and knowing the vocabulary related to being on the aircraft itself, right?
Exactly. From knowing precisely when your group is called to understanding where to put your bag, how to find your seat. It's all about navigating that final transition from gate to seat smoothly.
Okay, you're finally airborne, wheels up. But the English conversation opportunities, they're not over yet, are they? They continue on board and definitely upon arrival.
Not at all. Once the flight reaches cruising altitude, the flight attendants will usually start the onboard service. Listen for announcements about beverage service or meal service. They'll come down the aisle with the carts, asking things like, would you like anything to drink? Or if it's mealtime, maybe chicken or pasta or whatever the options are. Just state your choice clearly. Coffee, please. Pasta, please.
Okay. And if you need to use the restroom, the lavatory, during the flight?
Well, you can always politely ask a flight attendant if one is free. Is the restroom occupied? Or more simply, just look at the small sign, usually on the door itself. It typically lights up green for vacant or red for occupied.
Right. Turbulence can happen, too. What do those announcements usually sound like?
Yeah, if the plane hits some bumpy air, you'll usually hear the pilot come on the intercom. They'll say something like, ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some turbulence. Please return to your seats and keep your seatbelt securely fastened. The key is understanding you need to stay seated and buckled up until they say it's clear. Now, before landing, especially on international flights, this is important. Flight attendants will distribute customs declaration forms or maybe immigration cards. The instruction is usually quite straightforward. Please fill out this form for customs and immigration.
These forms can have some quite specific vocabulary on them, can't they? What should you look out for there?
Yes, they can seem a bit daunting. Familiarize yourself with the terms you'll need to fill in accurately. Things like your country of residence, your full passport number, the purpose of your visit. You'll need to tick a box usually, like tourism, business, or study. And there's often a declaration of goods section where you have to list certain items you're bringing into the country, if any.
Okay. Then, upon arrival, after you get off the plane, you'll proceed to immigration or passport control. Another face-to-face interaction. What kinds of questions should you be prepared for from the immigration officer?
Right. The immigration officers ask pretty standard questions. Their job is to verify your identity and why you're entering the country. So be ready for things like, what is the purpose of your visit? How long will you be staying? Where will you be staying? Mentioning the city or maybe the name of your hotel or host is good. They might also ask, are you traveling alone? The key is to answer truthfully and concisely. Just give direct answers. Don't volunteer loads of extra information. Okay, once you're through immigration, you'll follow signs to baggage claim to get your checked luggage back. Look for your specific flight number displayed on the screens above the different conveyor belts or carousels to find the correct one for your bags.
And the very, very final step before you can finally exit the airport is usually customs, right?
Yes, often just after baggage claim. A customs officer might just wave you through, or they might stop you and ask one final question. Do you have anything to declare? This refers back to that declaration form, asking if you're bringing in goods over the allowed limit, like alcohol, tobacco, or high-value items. If you don't have anything like that, the standard and expected response is simply, no, nothing to declare.
So the insight here is that even after you've landed, understanding these standard questions, the vocabulary on the forms, it's all essential for a smooth exit from the airport.
It absolutely completes the loop. You're using practical, necessary English right up until the moment you walk out the door.
Okay, so we've walked through the ideal smooth journey. But let's be realistic, sometimes things don't go exactly to plan. Knowing how to troubleshoot problems in English is absolutely crucial for navigating airports like a real pro.
Oh, definitely. This is where your language skills can really be tested, but also prove incredibly useful. So let's take a common scenario. Your flight gets canceled unexpectedly. or maybe you have a tight connection and experience a missed connection. First thing, don't panic. Find your airline's customer service desk, or sometimes it's called the rebooking desk. Go there and state the problem clearly and calmly. Excuse me, my flight to London was canceled, or I've missed my connecting flight number BA123. Right, have your details ready. Your original flight number, your destination. Then ask the agent directly, what are my options now? Or, when is the next available flight to your destination? Be polite but firm about needing a solution.
Okay, another common headache. What if your checked luggage doesn't turn up on the carousel at baggage claim?
Right, your luggage is lost, or maybe just delayed. First rule, don't leave the baggage claim area without reporting it. Look for the specific baggage services desk or the lost and found office, usually run by your airline or a handling agent. Go there and explain. Say something like, excuse me, my bag hasn't arrived from flight number, or I think my luggage might be lost. They will absolutely need your baggage tag, that sticky label they put on your boarding pass or passport when you check the bag in. Don't lose that. They'll also need your contact information and the address where you'll be staying so they can deliver the bag if or when they find it.
Okay. Now, a really stressful one. Losing something incredibly important like your passport or your wallet inside the airport.
Yeah, that's a worst-case scenario, definitely panic-inducing.
Yeah.
But there is a process. Go immediately to the airport police station within the terminal, or sometimes there's a main airport lost and found desk for general items. State clearly and calmly what you've lost. I've lost my passport, or I seem to have lost my wallet. They will guide you on the next steps. For a lost passport, that will almost certainly involve contacting your country's embassy or consulate as soon as possible.
Right. What if you suddenly feel unwell, you need medical help?
Look for signs pointing to first aid or medical assistance. Most airports have a dedicated station. If you can't see a sign easily, ask any airport staff member urgently. Excuse me, where is the first aid station? Or simply, I need medical help, please.
Okay. And for any other kind of general confusion, maybe you lost something less critical like a book, or have a question that isn't specific to your airline.
The main airport information desk that we mentioned earlier is the go-to place for general help. Just approach the staff there and start with, could you help me, please? And then state your question or problem clearly, like, I have a question about getting a taxi, or I think I left my jacket somewhere near gate 10.
So what's the underlying key insight for troubleshooting these problems effectively in English?
I think it boils down to a few things. Staying as calm as possible is number one. Number two is being able to clearly and concisely state the problem, what actually happened. And third, knowing who to ask for help. Is it your airline staff, the airport police, the general information desk, or medical services? And throughout it all, even when you're stressed, remembering to use those polite phrases, excuse me, please, thank you, can genuinely make a difference in how quickly and well you get assistance. This is where your practical language skills really show their value. Handling the unexpected effectively in English, that's a real hallmark of a confident, experienced traveler. You're not just, following a script anymore. You're actively using the language to solve a problem in real time.
Wow, okay. We really have covered the entire airport journey, haven't we? It feels quite comprehensive. From, getting ready at home online, finding your way around the building when you arrive, handling the check-in counter, conquering security, finding the right gate, staying informed about changes, mastering the boarding process itself, then what to expect while you're actually flying and when you arrive at the other end, and crucially, how to handle things when they go wrong.
Yeah, you now have laid out the essential vocabulary and the communication strategies needed for each of those distinct stages. And remember, confidence in using any language, but especially in a potentially stressful environment like an airport, it really just comes with practice. The most important thing is probably not to be afraid to speak up or to ask questions if you're unsure. Airport staff fundamentally are there to help people navigate. Clear communication helps everyone involved.
Exactly. And being able to communicate effectively in that bustling, sometimes frankly chaotic environment, that's a significant accomplishment.
Yeah.
It means you're not just being carried along as a passenger, you're an active participant in your own journey, which feels much better.
Definitely. And treat every future trip you take as a chance to practice and reinforce these skills. Listen actively to the announcements around you. Observe how other people interact with staff. Notice new words on signs you didn't see before. The more you travel and actually use these phrases in context, the more natural and automatic they'll become.
Yeah, you're moving beyond just sort of getting by. You are actually confidently navigating the English language within that whole international travel arena. That's a huge step forward for anyone learning the language.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener. to consider as we wrap this up. Think about how mastering this very specific practical skill, successfully using English in a complex, sometimes high-pressure place like an airport, how that could change things. Not just your travel experiences, obviously, but perhaps your overall confidence in tackling other challenging situations where clear communication is really the key. What other areas of your life, maybe work or study, could benefit from the same kind of focused approach? Identifying the key language you need for a specific situation and then actively practicing it.
That's a great point. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We genuinely hope this equips you to approach your next airport experience, not just without the anxiety, but with real, genuine confidence and, dare I say it, ease. Happy travels.
Thanks for listening, and if you found the video helpful, please hit the like button, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode, and share it with others who might benefit. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. So your feedback is really important to us. And if you want to continue learning right now, here in this playlist, you'll find helpful videos for English listening practice. You might want to watch it next. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.